Bright QT. Every student matters.
Hello students, now here we are going to talk about the 5-year plans. Now students, before this we were talking about Joseph Stalin, right? So we saw that in 1924, after the death of Lenin, there was a power struggle between two important leaders, that is Trotsky and Stalin. But Stalin defeated Trotsky here and he concentrated all the powers in his hands and he became a dictator and he tried to purge anyone who opposed him. But he also introduced 5-year plans in the USSR that we are talking about in this period, right? So let us try to understand what was this 5-year plans like and what happened with the coming up of the 5-year plans. Now, since you are hearing this name 5-year plans, what do you understand by it? Definitely you are understanding, so this is some kind of planning that is being done for a 5-year period here, right students? Now before this, we have learned that a centralized planning was introduced or this policy was adopted here in the USSR, right? So under this centralized planning, what are we seeing? We see that for a period of 5 years, the officials, they were setting some targets. Now, during this 5-year plan here, the main idea or the main aim was to increase the economy of the USSR, right? Present day Russia that we are talking about. In order to revive the economy, in order to increase the economy here in the international market, so this whole 5-year plan, a centralized planning, the policy was adopted here. So we all know that during the Civil War, right, during the period after the Russian Revolution till 1920s, we see that industries and banks, they were nationalized. Now, the term nationalized here, what do you understand? The term nationalized here, it means that all these industries, all these banks, they were under the central government. Now, the private individuals, they were no more responsible for taking the decisions of new policies in these banks or industries here. No, it was under the central government, it was nationalized. So all the powers were under the central government here. Okay. Now peasants were also permitted to cultivate on the land that were socialized. It means that the whole idea of collective ownership, right? So working collectively here. All these lands, they were given to peasants and they were permitted to cultivate on all these lands here, right? So that the rich peasants who are getting a lot of money, who are getting richer day by day, and the poor peasants who in fact they did not have a lot of money, they were given this fine opportunity to work on these lands and earn the share according to their work here, about which I have told you repeatedly here, right? Throughout this whole chapter, we have learnt about this concept. Now, centralized planning was also introduced and the best way to infer this is through the 5-year plans here. Now, when we are talking about 5-year plans, now when was this introduced? So, the first 5-year plan, although there were many 5-year plans here, but the first 5-year plan, it was introduced in 1927. Now, since this is for a 5-year period, it means that it continued till 1932. Now, if anyone asks you student that under whom was the 5-year plans introduced in Russia, you have to name Joseph Stalin. Now, he was the one who took this important measure, right? Now, why was this 5-year plan introduced in first place? So, all the officials, firstly, we know that they had to revive the economy. The main idea was to revive the Russian economy. Now, all these officials, they adopted this centralized planning under which they used the national resources and also they assessed the economy and they set up the targets for a period of 5 years. Now, I'll give you an example here, students. Do you remember the planning commission in our country that was formed? Yes. So, the whole idea in our country as well was the planning commission that was formed in our country. So, it was also done for a period of 5 years, right? So, what happened in this whole process? All the officials involved in this, they had to set up a target for this 5-year period, right? They had to assess the economy of the country. They had to set up this target for a 5-year period in which they will see how the economy of the country can be grown and in what sectors they can improve, through what sectors they could improve the economy of the country. So when we are talking about Russia here, we see that they focused on heavy industries, right? So in these heavy industries, new policies were introduced in order to gain profit through these heavy industries, right? Apart from that, collectivizing agriculture, this was another important policy here that was introduced in order to revive the Russian economy. So certain measures were taken as per the targets that were set for the period of 5 years. Now at the end of the 5th year, now these officials, they would see how much they were able to cover up, right? How much of the targets that they had set they are going to cover up during this period or they had covered up during this period. So here when we are talking about the 5-year plans in Russia, the two important 5-year plans here is the first and the second 5-year plans that started here from 1927 and lasted till 1932. The second 5-year plan here is 1933 to 1938. Okay, so remember the timeline here. Now here when we are talking about these 5-year plans, what were the major policies or the changes that took place? So the government extended the schooling system, schooling system it developed here in Russia. Arrangements made for the factory workers and peasants to enter the universities. We all know that education was given a priority here, right? So all these workers and peasants, they were also given a way to enter the universities and to educate themselves. But here when I am talking about the first 5-year plans or the second 5-year plan, we see that in the industrial sector as well as the agricultural sector, major policies were formed in order to revive the economy. Now there was cheap public health care, okay? Industrial production, it also increased. Now when you will look at the end of the first 5-year plan or the second 5-year plan, definitely certain changes it took place, right? So there were some improvements here in the economy of the USSR and we see that the industrial production, it increased. Now when we are talking about different industries such as the iron and steel and different other heavy industries, in these sectors we see that there was 100% increase in the production. Therefore, definitely the 5-year plans, it was a successful attempt in order to revive the economy here. Now coming to the exercise section, we have a question that says, what was the duration of the first 5-year plan introduced in the USSR? Now the options here are 1933 to 38, 1927 to 32, 1920 to 25, 1925 to 1930. Now you must be aware here of two options. You know that you haven't heard of these two options when we are talking about the first 5-year plan, right? We have two options that you might get confused in. 1927 to 32, 1933 to 38. You have read about these 2 years, right? This 2 period here. So when you have to talk about the first 5-year plan, you must remember that it began in 1927 and it's quite simple to calculate 5 years from now, that is 1932. So the correct answer here is B, 1927 to 1932. The second question here is, Which of the following leaders started the 5-year plans in Russia? What are you going to answer in this question, students? First one is Lenin, second is Stalin, third is Trotsky, and fourth is Gorbachev. What is the correct answer? We know that Lenin was dead by now. You haven't heard of this name here. Trotsky, you know that Stalin had defeated Trotsky. We have just learned it right now, right? So the correct answer, the obvious answer here is Stalin. He was the one who started the 5-year plans in Russia that proved to be successful till some period here. Okay? Thank you.